Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where I chat with inspiring artists 5 days a week. My name is Eva and my guest today is Michele Arrieta, and we chat about art mentorship and many avenues leading towards an art career.
There's a lot of misconception about what kind of things you can do with your artistic abilities, and that fine art isn't the only avenue you can go down. There are a lot of commercial careers that you can pursue that, will provide a living for you.
Michele is an illustrator and graphic designer living in San Diego, California. She graduated from the International Academy of Design and Technology in San Antonio, Texas, with bachelor degree in fine arts and major with graphic design. She is best known for her illustrations of lovely female characters, and her inspiration stems from fashion photography. Michele is a full-time graphic designer, and she spends her evenings pursuing her passion for illustration. You can find her tabling at CTN Expo and maybe at WonderCon and San Diego Comic-Con in 2018 as well. So please welcome Michele Arrieta, and let's get to the interview. Welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Michele here. Hi!
Hi!
How are you?
Doing good, great. Yeah, it's exciting.
So let's start with your background right away, and maybe you can share some of your stories when you were a creative as a child.
Gosh, yeah. I'll try to make this quick. I had a lot of different paths to go down. Like most people, I was drawing like my entire life. And actually, I loved drawing Sailor Moon. That was like my favorite pastime growing up. But then as I got into high school, I started experimenting a lot more with like realism and doing a lot of pencil sketches. And of course, when you're a teenage girl, you're looking at all the fashion magazines. So I'd find like photos of models or something that I would like, and I would tear it out and just sit there and recreate it with pencil drawing. So that was like my pastime in high school.
Oh, perfect. So what did you use when you were drawing as a child? Was it like pencils, or did you already use like watercolors or like everything?
A lot of pencils. Yeah, I didn't experiment too much with painting, surprisingly. I don't know. I think I liked detail, and so pencil was just what I gravitated towards. Yeah.
and when did you decide to take this professionally, or like also start painting digitally, like these kind of biggest turning points?
Yeah. I actually took a class in high school for graphic design, because growing up, I was always very afraid to pursue artwork as a career, because you always learn about, these like starving artists and stuff that growing up. And so it was like, oh, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, I heard that as well.
Yeah, but it was never enough to like make me stop drawing, I just thought about like different things I could do that were a little bit more commercialized. So I was like, well, maybe I'll be like a fashion designer, or maybe I'll do like product design or something. And then I ended up taking a class in high school for graphic design. So I was like, oh, okay, this is closer to what I could see myself doing. So then I went to college for graphic design as well, and towards the end of that 4-year degree, it was when I started discovering like digital painting. And I think at that time, Pinterest started becoming really popular. And I stumbled across Claire Keene's artwork that she did for Tangled. And I was like, wait, what is visual development? This sounds really interesting. And so I started like researching that more and more, and was like, wow, that's what I should be doing. So after college, I got a lot more into digital painting and, researching more about what visual development was and what, type of skills you needed for that. And stumbled across the Oatley Academy. Have you heard of them before?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started listening to a lot of those podcasts, and actually, I didn't sign up for the classes at all. I'm not really sure why. They always seemed very interesting. And actually, I still have not taken a class. I did a mentorship through the Oatly Academy.
Okay.
And then I had the intent of signing up for some of the classes. Now I remember why. It's because before they had set it up to where you had to take everything in chronological order. And I was waiting. I knew that they were going to release a new version of those courses where you could cherry pick which ones you wanted to take. So, yeah. I know I eventually will. But
so how did it work with the mentorship? Did you like choose one mentor and then you pay the mentor hourly, or how does it work with them?
Yeah. So it's through the Oatly Academy. It's the one I took was called The Spark, and it's with Sarah Marino. She is a visual development artist for Nickelodeon. And she runs a whole mentorship. It's like a package deal. So it's like, I want to say 10 weeks long, and you give like assignments each week, and she reviews them, gives feedback, and then explains the next step or homework that you're going to be working on. And it was a good eye opener into like the whole visual development process. And being able to have like that one-on-one feedback with your work is really effective.
And the feedback you had, like a video feedback, you actually talked with the person, or she looked? Okay, so you like
it was through. It was through. There was like 10 people in the class, and so not only could you we were all on Zoom video, and then not only would you get feedback on your work, but you were able to look at the other students' work and see what kind of pointers she gave them as well, which is always helpful to you because you're kind of like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that.
So. That's really interesting, because I did something similar with Nathan Fawkes about like environments and color and light, but the feedback was in the form of the video. So basically I uploaded my homework and then he was drawing over my homework and commenting on it, but we didn't like speak in like video call or something.
Oh yeah, interesting.
So that one was also good, but I liked it as well, as you said, like you can pick and choose like what course you want, and I just wanted like environment and color and light. I didn't want to do like, I don't know, like a pencil sketches, because I just wanted that one to learn now. Being able to recognize where you want to improve and be able to cherry pick. And what
courses.
was like the best advice you ever received like during this learning process?
Oh man, I gotta think back. She did go over some like pretty interesting painting techniques. One thing that really stood out to me was you always hear about muddy colors, and I couldn't. It's like something I researched, but I couldn't really figure out what exactly it meant. But having her there to explain it and show you, if you're doing something like with a gradient on a computer, going from like a pink to a bluish tone, sometimes there's this sort of like grayish purple in the middle. And so she was showing us techniques on how to avoid that. So whether it's like forcing another color into that gradient, or, messing with like the blending modes in Photoshop, are ways to eliminate that. But it's something that, when we moved into color comps, was discussed a lot, and ways to recognize it and to avoid it.
Perfect. And what about like like the worst advice you ever received, like in during the whole art career, or you see like young artists are getting nowadays?
I don't know that I have a specific advice that is bad.
Or maybe the starving artist, as you mentioned.
That's true. Now that I think that's bad advice. I think for people that aren't really involved in a creative career, and even those who are interested in it, but just haven't been exposed to the right things. I think there's a lot of misconception about what kind of things you can do with your artistic abilities, and that, fine art isn't the only avenue you can go down. There are a lot of commercial careers that you can pursue that, will provide a living for you.
And so when you were deciding like what to do, like after you finished the university, was it hard to find first job, or you wanted to do right away visual arts and like also graphic design on the side, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I actually halfway through college got a job at a promotional products company. And the reason why is because they did vehicle wraps. And I've seen some pretty amazing designs. And I was like, oh, wow, that'd be a cool experience to work for this company. But then they sold the vehicle wrap department. So I was stuck setting up, logos and phone numbers on pins and koozies and things. But I mean, it was still a good experience to get myself into a working environment. But I at that point I still wasn't sure exactly what career I wanted to pursue, like specifically. Like I knew I wanted to do artwork. I knew that there was like specific companies that I wanted to work for eventually. And it was just figuring out how to get there and how to get started on that path.
And so how do you do the networking now? As we talked a bit about the conventions before the recording. So can you mention maybe some events, or how do you connect with people to find new paid jobs as well?
Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of freelance work. So finding networking opportunities for like potential freelance jobs is not something that I've been like actively seeking out. But as far as like building my career goes, I think the first thing that really opened my eyes was I was involved with AIGA. I forget exactly what that acronym stands for, but it's sort of like a national community for advertising and design. And so I would get their emails, and there was an email for a workshop and panel with two artists from Disney Consumer Products that were coming to, at the time I was in San Antonio, Texas. So they were coming there to host this workshop. And so I attended it, and they opened my eyes to a whole other department of designing illustrations for consumer products. And so I talked to them afterwards, and just about my interest in that whole community. And one of the guys, John Quinn, I think he still works at Disney Consumer Products. He said, move out to California because it is just too hard to network when you're not in that area. So it's like, okay, let me start looking for jobs. Yeah, let me start looking for jobs to get me out here. So that was like the first big leap. And and so the job I'm at now is the one I had applied for. And since then, it's just attending things like CTN and talking to other people, and getting involved a lot with art shows. So last year was my first year tabling at CTN, which I think was a really great experience because you're putting your work out there for everyone who's passing by to look at. So it's basically like putting your portfolio on display, which I think is just great. And, it opens up the doors for more acknowledgement and recognition. Yeah. And then just getting involved with more shows. I applied for WonderCon for next year and for San Diego Comic-Con. So we'll see if I get in.
Yeah, I heard there is like a long waiting queue and everything around that.
So it's like, okay, I better start applying for these things now.
And what about the CTN? Is it hard to get a table there, or is there like a big waiting list, or?
It wasn't too hard. Um, and I don't know what other people's experiences are like because I haven't heard anyone say it was like difficult to get in. But I think a good option is sharing a table. It's kind of nice to have that system too to give you a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, because then you can be with someone, then you can help each other if someone even want to go just eat or whatever.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. And so maybe you can also mention for people who don't know that what is your day job compared to the visual development, what you do, and just like what do you live from?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So my main income is my full-time job doing graphic design. You could call us a design agency, but we have a big focus on creating training modules. So, for example, one of the clients we work with is Petco. So if you're a Petco employee at one of the stores, the way that they do their training is through these interactive training modules on the computer. So we take that information, rather than looking at a binder and reading through all this content, we're creating like a visual experience for people. So it's everything from animation to just UI design, a lot of iconography, a lot of like simulated scenarios. So it's fun. I get to do some illustration and some character design with that company, and learning a lot about how to set things up for animation is a very interesting process.
Ah, perfect. And what about the projects you are working on now in your private artworks and, something which is coming up, which you can share and we can look forward to?
Yeah. Well, after work, I do, I go home and I just want to work on personal work. And so what that means for me is just a lot of portfolio work. I'm actually in the process of redesigning Candyland. That's my personal visual development project.
Oh, nice.
So I started working on a lot of characters, and a prop design, and my next steps is to start working on environments, but I feel like I need a little bit more training. I want to take some tutorials to get or establish that foundation of environmental design. So that's my next step. And then I actually I did thinking a way to word this. I did accept a freelance job through Cosmopolitan magazine for some artwork for one of their blog posts, and that's going to come out in about a week.
Oh, nice.
So I'm wrapping up. Yeah, I'm wrapping up all of those illustrations right now. So I'll be able to share that like on Instagram and Facebook and everything.
Ah, perfect. Yeah, because when this interview will be out, it will be already published probably.
Yeah, probably.
So then we can share that as well in the show notes and also through your Instagram account. Perfect.
Yeah.
And if you can maybe share, like, how does your normal creative day look like? Or how many hours a day do you spend drawing? Or do you have like special activities you do every day, like rituals, like meditation or something else?
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I did. I wish I'm like, I should set aside 15 minutes every day to do figure drawing. That's like a thing I keep telling myself that I never do, but I should. But yeah, I when I come home from work, I always want to work on my personal work. It's like, I'm like sitting there in my mind while I'm at work, like dreaming about what I'm going to be illustrating when I get home. So I think it's just like being disciplined to, spend that time in the evening effectively. And so most nights I am working on artwork. I try and set aside one day a week to like get out and actually do like some physical activity, like go run or play tennis or something. And then on the weekends, I spend a lot, like probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening, I'm illustrating.
Yeah, and so you can actually learn and work on your own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I like get the bulk of my work done.
And do you have like a favorite books you learn from, as you mentioned that the environments, or are you taking like specific classes from one person in the future, or you haven't planned that yet?
Yeah. I do after CTN, I do intend on going back to tutorials and actually like doing some more training rather than just working on my own like personal masterpieces or whatever you want to call it. So doing more figure drawing and more environmental drawing. But I lost track of the question.
The books, if you have like a resources you go to.
Yes. Right now, because I do a lot of character design, I always find Grizz and Norm's Tuesday tips super helpful. I'm always referring back to that when I'm drawing people. And then there's another book that I really like called Color and Light. I think the guy's name is James Gurney. I'm not sure. And it just talks about like the different type of lighting in the world. So whether it's like natural lighting, what time of day that is, and how it affects the environment, to things like fluorescent lights or indoor lighting, or lighting coming through the window and what that looks like.
Yeah. It's definitely a really good book, and a lot of guests are actually recommending this book specifically.
Probably. It's one of those books. It's like a Bible you must have on your bookshelf.
It's like, this one. So yeah, definitely. And if we go back to your art style or your creations, is there something which is always there in your artworks, like you are thinking about, or some art tool you are always using, like this brush or something like that?
Yeah. It's funny. You kind of gravitate towards a couple of brushes because it starts to work with the style that you want to emulate. So there's like a couple brushes that I'm always using. As far as style goes, that's an interesting topic because everyone is always talking about like discovering your style, or what is your style, or how do you create a unique style. And it's very tricky. And it's one of those things that like I've been asking myself lately is, like what is the overall kind of like message that I want to send with my work? And, is it, like I think, okay, I want it to be whimsical. I want it to have a little bit of like mysteriousness to it, always emulating beauty. And now what I'm kind of doing to sort of like build a little bit more consistent styles, like going back and looking at the artwork that I've created so far that I do like, and like asking myself, okay, what is it about those pieces that I like and want to keep consistent and re-emulate in new things.
Yeah, definitely, because it's always really hard to find the art style, and everyone is talking about it, as you mentioned. And then we had also these discussions with other people, like, okay, so what it is actually, and we talked about like, if you like drawing eyes in a certain way, that can become your style, because you start to study different eye shapes and like different hand gestures or whatever. So it's like from many different angles, and it doesn't have to be like really forced just to think like, okay, what can be my brand, or what is the thing, as you say, like, oh, I want them to be happy or whimsical or something.
Yeah, and it's tricky too, because it's one of those things where it's like you never want to force a style either. So it's like you don't want, if you're illustrating people, it's like you don't want all of the faces to be the same either. It's like you don't want every character to have the same nose or the same eye shape. It's like you want that variety, but also trying to find some kind of consistency in those pieces. And I think, some people are just always going to have like a very recognizable style, like someone like Loish. And I think for others, like I feel like I'm never going to be one of those people that has like a super consistent like style. I want to experiment so much with, like whether it's a more realistic piece or something that's more cartoon, and being influenced by so many other people. It's like one of those things where it's like, is this hurting my my, I don't want to say career, but maybe like recognition or something. I don't know. It's something that I'm always questioning, and or is it okay to experiment a lot?
Yeah. I think it's interesting for like a different career path, like if you want to be like really recognizable selling these art prints and everyone knows it's me, or if you want to be like adaptable working with different people, so it's like, I think it's good to be like kind of be able to adapt, but as well kind of develop maybe some recognizable style over time.
Yeah. And I definitely agree. It's maybe not so much always having consistency, but showing that you can be consistent.
Yeah, kind of in that sense. And it's like also in the way posting on the social media, that people can recognize your account in some way that is always colorful or always ink or whatever.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, people probably get confused by my Instagram.
Yeah, I am like all over the place all the time as well. So I'm trying to keep it also more consistent now. So let's see how that will go.
Yeah.
And is there something you wish you knew before you started the whole art career?
Ooh, start it now. I think that was a big thing for me. Is I kind of felt like I started late. And I think, whether you're like in high school or in college, like starting to build a career at that point, even if you don't feel like, you're on the same level as these professionals, that's totally okay. I think the people that you see that are really successful did start earlier. And so, that's something I wish I would have thought about. I held myself back a lot from putting myself out there, like on social media, just out of fear that like my stuff just wasn't good enough to share yet. And I wish I would have just taken that leap anyways.
Yeah, just like earlier. And I think a lot of young artists or people starting out have the same thing, like, oh, I don't want to share this because I don't like it yet. But then you can see also your progress, and then you can build your community around it faster.
Yes,
Definitely.
Exactly.
And now when you are creating digital artwork, you use Photoshop and Cintiq or Intuos, or what do you use? What are your tools?
I use Photoshop and the Wacom Intuos Pro. I have the Intuos, or the companion tablet version, but I find myself using the Intuos Pro a lot more.
Okay.
And it's funny because it's like when I'm working on the companion, I'm like, oh, my hand's in the way.
It's like
Yeah, and so that's why. And I think the other thing is I like using like hotkeys.
Yeah.
And so I gravitate a lot more towards the Intuos Pro.
Yeah, because I use the Cintiq, but then with the keyboard, so it's kind of easier. So you can use the hotkeys as well.
I saw, and I don't know why that never clicked to me before, but I saw two people had posted some pictures recently, and I saw the keyboard on the side, and I was like, that's my solution. That's what I need to do.
But also like with the Intuos, when I travel, then I take just the what is Intuos 4 or something, or yeah. So, but then it's hard to swap from one another when you are like, oh, now I'm on the screen, and then you go to the tablet, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, wait. And have you experienced something like the most difficult time of your art career yet, or something like the worst moment and something you learned from it, maybe?
I'm not sure. I have experienced, like a really difficult time. As far as like this is a little bit more related to graphic design, but I think it could be effective for anyone, is just starting off as a graphic designer, just having those kind of like mistakes with proofreading. That's one thing that sticks out in my mind. But it's a very real situation that, you know, when you start doing work for clients, taking that time to proof things and go over it. So yeah, so a lot of like spelling errors and wrong phone numbers and things. And just learning like that, okay, that needs to be a part of your process during your final steps is taking the time to review everything. But as far as like art related goes, I think maybe right now I'm maybe kind of going through a difficult phase, only because learning how to build a community of you know, friends with the same like goals as you, and going out to different networking events, and you know, that's a tough thing to do. Just learning how to communicate with people and keep those relationships going. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you kind of think about the future and like your future projects and your visual development, art and all of that, where would you like to be in like 5 to 10 years, if you imagine like this dream scenario where you cannot fail and like this is what will happen?
Yeah. You know, there's like several things and that I would love to pursue, and that I'm thinking about. Okay, you know, like that's sort of part of that difficult phase that I'm in right now is, you know, what leaps do I need to take? Because I feel like I'm going to need to take a leap soon. And so I've thought about things like building, I guess, a brand for myself. Like we talked about earlier, with like a consistent style, but something that's a lot more like product based. So designing like textiles and artwork that can be on products, and you know, being able to sell that in stores. I guess something almost like Lisa Frank in a way. And so that's kind of a dream situation that I am thinking about. The other thing is just like building just a freelance career for myself. You know, whether it's like having an agent and, you know, working through them with doing illustrations, or, you know, doing children's books, and just selling a lot more of my personal work.
Yeah. And do you think it's necessary to have an agent, or it's more in the California area? Or because I heard a lot of opinions like yes and no, and like what is your experience with that?
Yeah. You know, I've kind of just thought about the idea because I like to look at other artists that you know, I see that like their success, and okay, how did they get there? So just reading up on them and seeing that some people have gotten agents and seem pretty happy with it. And so it's something that I would like to test out and see. I mean, I think finding the right person to work for is key for that, for having a good experience with an agent. I think too, for me, it's kind of like a comfort zone. If I were to take that freelance
that you can focus more on the illustration, and the person can help you finding new jobs, and you don't have to spend time on it. Yeah. That makes sense. And when you mentioned like the prints and like selling your artworks, have you considered also like these websites like Redbubble or Society6, or you want to set up your own store on your website, or you don't know yet?
Yeah. I actually did just set up a store on my website through SmugMug. So it's only selling prints, but you know, at least I can you know, control like the quality through there, and it also offers you know, the ability to have a website and a shopping page, which is what I liked about it. And it handled all of the printing and shipping for you. And then I I played around with Redbubble and Society6 a little bit, and have like put pieces up there every now and then. With those, it definitely seems like you've got to do a lot of investing to really get the exposure to have like a consistent like purchasing through one of those sites.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It seems like that, because they have a big cut, because of course they take care of all of it. Like you can just upload artwork and they just do all the printing and shipping and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of options to do. And my last question would be about far future, and I would like to know, what would you like to be remembered for in like 100 years?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I think maybe creating like memorable pieces that people even 100 years later still look at and enjoy and love the style for that time that I lived in.
Definitely. That's really nice. And I think that will be like super cool when you can take some artwork and it's like, oh, this is really interesting. What is the message here? And or like you have different options to look at it, and super nice.
Or just like thinking about someone like Alphonse Mucha and how people still know who he was and the style that he had, and being able to have that kind of recognition is incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to, if you haven't been, like, go to his museum in Czech Republic. It's like all of his like early works, because he's from that area, and it's like when it was Czechoslovakia, and then it's like you can see all these old sketches even in Czechoslovakian language there, and so.
Oh yeah, that sounds incredible.
So it's really nice. And so thank you so much for being here. It was so much fun.
Yes, it was great.
And thanks everyone for joining, and see you in the next episode. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos, because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.